Welcome to this second episode of Lifework Podcast with Dr. Trevor Babcock. We want to pick up the story that we kind of left on a cliffhanger. He had graduated high school, and you were bound and determined, clear call, dead set on being an engineer. You're going to the University of Cincinnati, and then what?
Crash. Well, no, not immediately.
Okay.
I had a really good freshman year. No problem. Was doing classes fine. Got involved in Young Life. Got to run a summer camp, which is really, not a summer camp, a weekend camp, which is genuinely one of the highlights of my life. So much fun. Second year, was doing fine too. Did pretty well in a few classes in particular. And then your third year at University of Cincinnati, they have the co-op program. Okay, we might call it an internship. So you get a job in your field. All right, good. My grades are fine. I should get a pretty good job. I did get a pretty good co-op or internship. Go and work there for 3 months. And I can't admit it to myself, but I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Back to school for 3 months and then back to work for 3 months. At the end of what would have been then my 6th month on actually in an engineering firm, I have, at the time I didn't know it, but look, that's what a panic attack is. I mean, because again, when you got your whole life and, in front
all
of
your
you,
eggs in that one basket, and you're figuring out maybe this basket isn't the one.
Right. And I just had such a strong sense of this is it. And then I learned through experience that wasn't it. And so maybe there's a lesson here.
Senior year of college.
See, this is the middle of college now, and I am 3 years into a 5-year plan. It's 5 years by design because of all this co-oping, which I'm so grateful for that I had that work experience.
Sure,
because now I can change the boat.
So in one sense, a work experience refined and clarified the calling. Not in, yes, this is it, but more like, okay, this isn't it.
Exactly. There's a book I recently saw by Kevin DeYoung, and the book is called Just Do Something.
Yes.
And it's about work, vocation, all this stuff. And I just really appreciate that. Just find out, obviously say your prayers, obviously don't do anything crazy, but just pick something and go. And so I'm glad I did that. And I learned through experience that, guess what? I'm not my dad. The fear that I would never live up to him and his achievements is true. But on the other hand, I've got other achievements. I'm made in a different way. I'm just not him. And that just took me a while to get there.
So when was the switch turned from, okay, engineering's not it, maybe
psychology? Psychology was the middle of 5 years, which I really enjoyed. I was seeing the therapist at the time, and I just kept talking about, I got out of what I thought was my last English class, and I just kept talking about that, thinking about that. And for fun, I would read Byron. And my friends pointed out to me, not a lot of guys just read Byron, And so ended up, well, if I'm not going to be an engineer, why not English? And just sort of drifted into that. Finished with a bachelor's in English.
Did that add years to the college?
So again, the engineering program is 5 years by design, and I got out in 5 years still.
Okay.
So
with an English degree.
Mm-hmm, with an English degree, though, not which was not expected.
So you graduate from that, and then you're going to grad school.
Right. Not at first. I had this, what you might, I guess they call it a gap year now.
Okay.
I was doing it before it was cool. And what do? Here's a fun one for you. Can I tell you about the one time I got fired from a job?
Sure.
Okay. Some more of that learning through experience thing. I was substitute teaching because what do you do with an English degree? So I was like, well, I don't have any education background, but I'll substitute. I worked in a lab a little bit. I substitute taught a little bit. And substitute taught, I think it was 6th grade, 7th grade, something like that. I had a certain student that was just acting up. All right, son, to the principal's office with you, but he wouldn't go. And I was where I was located in the school was like, okay, I need to grab a teacher from somewhere else. Can you keep an eye on these kids? Because I need to walk this little snot ball to the office because he's not going. Well, the student ends up getting nose to nose with me, which is quite a feat because I'm like a foot taller than this kid, and is threatening me. And I had never even heard of such a thing. I was blessed to go to a pretty decent high school. You were threatening a teacher, like physically? And Norman, I have to confess here on this podcast that I used some language that was effective but not appropriate.
Yeah.
And fortunately, and fortunately that kid kind of cowed him, and because if he would have swung at me, I mean, that hurts me, but now what, does he get expelled for that? Anyway, he walks off to the principal's office, and then a couple hours later, I follow for the last time.
Yeah. So then you go to grad school.
Yeah.
Gap year.
Applied to, I just wanted to go east. No big, not a spiritual thing. Just felt like, I don't know, it's maybe the one place in the country I hadn't lived. So I decided to go east, throw some applications to the east, end up getting in to New York University, which was like kind of what the heck, I'll just throw one out there. And I got denied by the schools that I thought where I was a shoo-in. And then I get into the one that I thought I would never have any chance. Well, I move out to New York, and this is where, again, saved, I'm walking with the Lord, and this is where I get shaky, frankly. Just start making some choices in the big city. It's a big, crowded, lonely place. Yeah. And look, I'm not living right.
Easy to get lost.
Yep.
In many ways, in every way.
Mm-hmm. And so the way the story goes is I'm getting toward the end of my, master's program. I'm frankly, not to put too fine a point on it, I'm at risk for I'm putting my health on the line.
Right.
And so I talked to a friend. I'm like, I'm kind of anxious about this. Once I graduate, I lose my health insurance because it's tied to the school. Exactly. And she was like, you're probably fine. Just go get checked. Maybe it'll help your anxiety. So I was like, okay, go in and get checked. And they say, no problems there. But hey, I am going to send you to the oncologist because you've got cancer. Okay. And so I've told this story many times, and what I've learned from this, and this is maybe like the lesson of my life, is that God used my worst behavior. Okay. It's when I was running from him, and I knew better, I wasn't making excuses. I was willfully choosing to live in sin. And through that, because of that, that's what God used to get me into the doctor to, for all I know, save my life. Save my life. And you step back from that, and it's just like, sheesh, if God can use the worst of my decisions to accomplish his will, then maybe he's really in control. And just, the anxiety, it just melts away. If that really gets, if I find that in my heart, the anxiety just melts away. He's in control. I don't need to be.
So you go through a cancer treatment plan?
That's right.
Okay.
I go back to now. I could have stayed in New York, but I was like, I don't want to be pumped full of chemo thrown up on the train. No, thank you. I'm just going to go home and be with my parents and just take as much stress out of my life as I can. Goal one is to get better. There is no goal two.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I did. Went to Cincinnati. In terms of God's providence, here's another one for you. I had some great doctors. They were going to put me through chemo, and he had a relationship. This oncologist with not with Lance Armstrong's doctor. Okay, so Lance Armstrong famously is a testicular cancer survivor. That's the same as me. Not his doctor, but like the architect of his team of doctors looked at my case and said, no, this kid, he doesn't need chemo. Radiation is good. And he was right. And if you know much about chemo and radiation, like a bullet that I dodged there. And so what is that? But again,
and how long ago was this?
This was, I was 26 at the time. This is 2008. Cancer free for, what's it been? I stopped counting 16, a while ago.
Yeah. Almost 18 years.
Yeah, we're getting to 20, aren't we? Yeah.
Good for you. So where in all of this did a vocation pivot occur that, I may need to get a job and I may want God to be the one directing this path?
Right. So, I'd love to dress this up spiritually, but frankly, I'm not going to. I mean, for me, it's just been ever since that sort of crystal clear picture shattered.
Yeah.
It's just my life has been, what's the next right thing? That's a catchphrase I learned. I'm involved in Celebrate Recovery. We're launching one at my church, First Baptist Walnut Ridge. We'd love to see you. And this is for all kinds of sin.
Right.
Anything from, say, divorce care up to, alcoholism, drug addiction, and so on. And when I've learned so much from this program, and again, one is do the next right thing. And so for me, okay, I got a master's. I could teach. It had kind of bad luck with that. Maybe being a professor would be different. Let's just, Ecclesiastes, throw our bread on the water, throw something at the wall, see what sticks. Moved at the time, this is 2008 and then into 2009. And as you might recall, there was a huge recession and, ground central or ground zero for that recession was New York City. So, I mean, I knew people. I was at New York University working. I was working at the time in the business office. I saw the last round of Lehman Brothers employees get hired. I knew a gal who was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't get hired by Lehman. Now what am I going to do?" Which famously went out of business. Was it in 07, 08, right? So anyway, the economy was tanking. So in the summer of 2009, my current wife and I moved to Texas. We lived about a mile or so away. She lived with a friend. I found a place not so far. Worked as a adjunct professor, but found enough adjuncts to sort of cobble together a living for a single guy. And then I said, yeah, "This is nice. This seems right. This feels okay. Let's apply to PhD schools." You got to apply to. It's just so hard to get in. I got into a couple. We're moving to Indiana, babe. So we get married and we go to Indiana University. There for 9 years, teaching. Love it. Love the teaching. Love the schools. I got to study with this guy Rob Folk, who was like, this guy should have been at Oxford. That's not me bragging. It's just my dumb luck is that I was studying with the guy on Anglo-Saxon England. And so awesome. Just decided to do medieval because they were just great at that. And I was like, okay, sounds good. I'll sign up for that. And just one foot, in front of the other. There were some slog days. Vanessa reminds me, you were getting a little wobbly toward the end there, but we made it through, put out some applications. And this little school in Northeast Arkansas, I think it's called Williams Baptist University. Yeah.
That's right, I've heard of it.
Yeah, Baptist University, that's right. Hired me, and here we are.
Okay. Wow. So talk us through how you look at your work in terms of calling, vocation. How do you see your ministry as a professor of English, fulfilling, making disciples, fulfilling, encouraging, helping others prepare for their vocation to live for the Lord?
Mm-hmm. There's a couple routes I want to go here. I'm making some notes and doing it. So the two questions I see here is how has the vocation been the Lord's direction in my life, and also what is it like to actually do the job in a Christian context? Real quick, let me do the first one first. How has God's vocation been? Like I said, it's just been do the next right thing has been my mantra. That strong sense that was so wrong, it has never really felt that again. And was it Kierkegaard? One of these famous highfalutin guys said, life must be lived forward, but only makes sense backwards. And, I really do think that we'll all get to the end of history and God will reveal the plan, and it'll be like, okay, wow, now I get it. And I think individual threads, my little thread will be that as well. It'll make sense in reverse. I will see that God was always guiding me through at every step, Proverbs 16 stuff. I will see that clearly, but at the time I don't really feel that sense. I just make the next right decision. So
Yes.
That's what vocation is like for me. I think, I've heard of other people that just had a strong impression. This is where the Lord is leading. That's where the Lord is leading. For me, I'd love to tell you that. It's just, that's not been my story. My story has been, what's the next right thing? What does it look like to actually teach day to day?
Let me interject a little thing, not to discount what you just said, but I suspect in your decision making over what's the next right thing, there's probably some biblical teaching, some prayer, some past experiences and life wisdom, and maybe some mentors speaking into or have a database of influence in your life such that what's the next right thing really is the fruit of the leading of God, maybe not in some kind of existential sense of feeling, but in these biblical teachings, in these biblical readings I've had, in these steps of reading theology, or maybe hearing a sermon, or these life experiences that God uses to orchestrate helping you determine what is the next right thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely, maybe I went way too fast over that, but that's absolutely all true. Of course, I learned at a young age, okay, during that high school, like on fire for Christ, as we used to say in the 90s, I really was, and I made some maybe zealous mistakes. I thought I was hearing from the Lord. For example, I thought I was hearing from the Lord, go witness to your next door neighbor. And this is something that was really scary to do, but I did it. I knocked on his door and went and witnessed to him. And he said, okay, well, thanks for thinking about me. Thanks, but no thanks. Like a religion. Okay. I go home and I get the strong impression that, and I'm like 17. I'm not like just a little kid. I'm 17 years old. And I get this strong impression, okay, now you need to do it again at 3 a.m. in the morning. I laugh now.
Did you get shot?
Yeah. I went and rang he didn't open the door. I rang his doorbell at 3 a.m. because I just had this. And okay, so why did I tell that story? To make myself look like a crazy person. But what I learned from that is I had a lot of conversations after that about what does hearing from the Lord mean. And so what I really, really learned was that, look, this is not a single player game. This Christian walk of ours. Jesus doesn't send out one by one. He sends out 2 by 2. He sends out in a group. We are meant to be in a church. I mean, the New Testament is just so clear on this. And so what I learned the hard way is, okay, little zealot, let's make sure that we're talking to people and seeking advice and, consulting scripture and just, and instead of maybe just going off every little feeling we have, let's make sure that we're getting that wisdom, that we're living in communion in a community with people who are able to speak into my life. So that's the situation that led me to all that stuff. Maybe I glossed over.
No, I wanted just to make sure to encourage you through what I observed, as well as to those that are listening, that doing the next right thing has a good, strong infrastructure if it's approached through a biblical Christian worldview.
That's exactly right.
All right, you're at Williams.
I'm at Williams.
You're with our students.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? How do you do? In what way do you help them in their, hopefully, walk with the Lord, and through that, finding their do the next right thing path for them?
Yeah. So let me, I want to talk to you about world literature.
I was hoping you would.
Yep, finally.
Thank you. No,
finally, it's time. Look, I teach all sorts of stuff. I teach the old stuff. Homer, that movie is coming out, The Odyssey, with Matt Damon this summer. Hopefully they do it justice. We're kind of not getting our hopes up, but we'll see. Okay, teach The Odyssey, the Iliad, and we do the entire Aeneid. Now, the Aeneid is the Romans doing what the Greeks did, and the Romans are going to write their epic poetry too, and it's all about Aeneas. And so this is like 1st century BC. So Christianity is not yet come over the horizon. The sun has not yet risen. But there's so many places. Okay, look at what Aeneas is valuing here. Look at what the Romans said was good in terms of things like personal responsibility, patience, piety. Now, of course, he's a pagan. You got to point that's worth pointing out. But there's all these virtues here, and it's like, this is pre-Christian. This is just virtue. And And I encourage my students. The Romans, they got a lot wrong, but they didn't get everything wrong. And look what they emphasized as right. And so I look for those places of like, yes, you can actually find good things in that, wicked, frankly, culture. Even there was good things. I emphasize this stuff. Then we move on. We get to St. Augustine. We get to Boethius, who is a Christian Roman senator right there at the end of the empire, who writes a book called The Consolation of Philosophy. And it's just Job 2.0. He's just talking about, I was thrown in prison for the wrong reason. I didn't do it. For all we know, he's telling the truth. He didn't do it, and is executed by the emperor for a crime he never committed. And he wrote a book about dealing with it as a believer from like 480 AD or something like this. And look, like we have all this Christian heritage. We've got this treasure trove of literature over the centuries. And my job is just to bring out from literature, whether it's Christian or not, what does literature have to tell us about how we should live, about what is right, about who we are. Another example I would love to give you. We just finished Hamlet. They didn't have psychologists in 1600 AD in England. What they had theologians and they had playwrights. They had Shakespeare. And so toward the beginning of this play, Hamlet turns to the camera, turns to the audience, and he says, "How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world." Okay, weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable. That's what my life is. Nothing interests me. What a textbook definition of depression that is.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like that, this is why I love literature. I look back into the past and it's like, okay, I'm not uniquely crazy because Shakespeare just to a T described what I was feeling in my young teen years. And students, I often tell them, I don't know who I'm talking to here. Like I can't, some of you I can get to know. I can't get to know all of you. I don't know where you're coming from. But if there's someone in this room who's dealing with this stuff, look, you're not alone. And I use this as like an inroad to, I'm a pretty open guy. I share maybe a little bit too much sometimes, but my hope is it's not therapy for me. It's encouragement for you. Look at what God has done for me. I really believe he can do the same thing for you. And please just know that you're not alone. Please know that if worse comes to worse, there's at least one guy you can talk to. Well, I won't look at you like you're crazy because you already know that I'm crazy.
I think that's a great place to land with that encouragement, invitation, not just to our students, but to any of our listeners, that there is a God who's aware of who you are. He sees you in your struggles, in your pain, in your trials, in your sin, and there is a path of redemption for you in his son, Jesus Christ. I found it, you found it, and to any of our listeners, you can too.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks for having me.